Hi guys, my name is Dan and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to explore Automobilista 2 and see why I think it has the best F1 content out there. If you want to see more of these videos, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And now, let's begin. First car is the legendary Lotus 49, designed by Colin Chapman in 1967, was a dominating force for the next 2 years. 420 horsepower V8 engine with only 500 kilograms was driven by two F1 icons Jim Clark and Graham Hill. Winning on its debut, in total won 12 races in 42 starts with 19 pole positions. It also won Constructor Championships in 1968 and 1970 with two driver championships by Graham Hill in 1968 and Jochen Rindt in 1970. This Lotus 49 car is just crazy to look at, like sausage on wheels with huge engine mounted on your back. Such an intimidating thing to see for drivers back then, even though they didn't know for better. So maybe it looked just awesome from their perspective, but no regard for safety. Also very difficult to stop this car. Brakes just are not comparable to modern day F1 or any kind of modern car, with a lot of power coming from this engine. Broad wheels give you some kind of stability, but there is no aerodynamics. A later model 49C got the front and rear wings, so then it was maybe a little bit more stable. Just crazy to drive around this 1993 classic Spa circuit, which is also one of the additions that Automobilista 2 offers. You will now see a different layout. It gives a little bit more flavor for the 60s car. To see these old curbs. Very, very intimidating and scary when you're on full throttle, knowing that you cannot stop when you want. So I'll be very early on the brakes here, trying to stop the car. Old bus stop chicane. A lot of oversteer. No traction control, of course. Second iconic F1 car is Brabham BT44. Designed in 1974 by Gordon Murray, this 475 horsepower V8 beast was pure joy just to look at. It had some share of success in its opening season, in which this car and Carlos Reutemann won 3 times. In total, from 36 starts, this car won in 5 races, including a notable Nürburgring win and the Brazilian GP, which was the home Grand Prix for Carlos Reutemann. When I saw this amazing looking car, just had to put it on the list. It's so fascinating with these huge rear wheels and this crazy looking design. It just shows the progression of aerodynamics, and it has such a lot of character. It's really a huge step up from the Lotus I drove previously. Much better braking, a lot more grip in corners. You can feel how this period of design improvements and this new era of 70s F1 cars made a lot of difference in handling. I can only presume the drivers also felt safer in the 70s, but this is really amazing how well this car actually handles. Lotus 72D is one of the best cars, and it would be not fair not to show its brilliance. This was a super successful car designed by Colin Chapman in 1970. It had a 474 horsepower V8 engine with only 575 kilograms. It started in 75 races, won 20, and it had amazing 39 podium places. Won 3 constructors and 2 drivers championships, with best drivers from that era, Jochen Rindt and Fittipaldi as champions, and as well as Jackie X and Ronnie Peterson. It wouldn't be fair not to test this car, and what I wanted to change for this test is see how the various weather conditions have an impact on handling. So we are again on Classic Spa, but this time a little drizzle or light rain conditions. It still feels very slippery. Nice under braking. You need to be smooth with the inputs. Try not to go on curbs. Also great looking car, just like BT44. This is Retro V8 formula named by Ryzen Studios, but in fact it's Lotus 72D, so just so you know if you're looking the car in game. I don't know if this is the licensing or maybe some other issue. And the third car from the 1970s, or should I say beast from 1970s, is McLaren M23, which was designed by Bernard and had Ford Cosworth V8 engine with 475 horsepower. It saw its racing debut in 1973 South African Grand Prix, and just like Lotus, it was a success-destined car, winning one Constructors' Championship in 1974 and 2 Drivers' Championships in 1974 and 1976, with Fittipaldi and Hunt becoming champions. Is there a better way to test a British car than on a British track from the 1975 historical Silverstone? I wanted to show off not only the McLaren but also the great variety that Automobilista 2 is currently offering. So this is really amazing. I've never driven in this layout. It takes time to get used to it. Regarding the car handling, it's very similar to Lotus, but has some different flavor. Not sure how to explain it very precisely. A lot of oversteer, but also very easy to catch and to save. It feels like it has a little bit more power from the engine behind. Very interesting to drive. These 70s cars, a large improvement from the 1960s, but also not nearly as controllable as the modern day cars, which is understandable. And we are now in 1980s, driving on Hockenheimring in 1988 layout, just to get a better feeling of the era. Formula Classic Generation 1 is Ryzen Studios' attempt to recreate the cars from 1986, and this particular one should be McLaren MP4 2C with 1200 horsepower, turbocharged V6 engine with only 630 kilograms in weight. Can you imagine the beast? As I said, this is the really crazy car. 1200 horsepower turbocharged engine. It's just amazing how far the cars went from the 70s into 80s, and aerodynamics and everything else just advanced so greatly. The feeling is completely different than to previous cars I tested out. And this Hockenheimring classic layout is also very nice and fun to drive. I consider it baby Le Mans. It has these long straights, then a chicane, then a second chicane, then again a long straight. Then you come into this ring area, which is also very fun, especially with this car. as you need to be very careful on the acceleration. You can only imagine that such a high-powered engine will rotate the rear end and you will lose control. So driving it carefully out of the corner is very important. You're just not stomping on the acceleration pedal, being very smooth with the inputs. And this is already era of Alain Prost and Senna, so you know what great drivers drove cars like this. I just wanted to show how beautifully everything was done by Ryzen Studios. So much detail put into all these cars. This is a different model, but also classic Generation 1 formula. Looks amazing from the tires to rear wing, front wing. Absolutely great job, and there is such a huge variety of the similar class cars that you can drive that it simply needs to be shown. And we are now in 1991. First of the three cars I will show. So we have a recreation of Williams, Ferrari and Benetton car. All of them are iconic legends of Formula 1. So the first one is 770 horsepower V12 engine. Amazing car driven by Nigel Mansell. It was a pure joy to watch him drive. This is the era that I as a kid started watching F1. And we are same year, different cars. So Ferrari V10 740 horsepower with only 610 kilograms, driven by Jean Alesi and Alain Prost. I will just let you enjoy the pure amazing sound and the looks of this car. And the third car is Benetton from the same year, a little bit less horsepower, not on the same level as the previous two, but very notable because Michael Schumacher came to Formula 1 and this was his debut season, or the part of the season replacing Roberto Moreno, and we all know what then followed. From all the three cars, I just had to show the best one, I think, which is Williams. It was the best car at the time, but regarding handling and control, this is by far the most interesting car to drive. Benetton is definitely not on the same level. A lot of problems handling that car, but this one is pure joy to drive, especially if you put the engine sound louder so you can enjoy in this V12 engine. Amazing car. And the next one is Formula V12 Ryzen Studios recreation of the famous Ferrari 4112 from 1995, driven by Gerhard Berger and Jean Alesi. It was the last F1 car that had a V12 engine. So really amazing how far technology has progressed in that era, and in general really great how the car handles. And is there a better way or a track to show that off than Interlagos, Brazil? Just a great F1 track. I cannot think of any better. 15,000 RPM in this car, so unbelievable. This is the first one I can start considering in the same category as the modern F1 cars that I can recall driving. Nevertheless, it's completely different experience with current F1 cars, so I cannot urge you enough to try this yourselves. Still has some oversteer and acceleration, early on throttle problems. This is not the best line. It's difficult for me to show off all the F1 cars and to be 100% correct on the lines and the inputs, just production wise, but I really hope you enjoying this and would like to try this yourselves. Formula V10 Generation 1 brings us to one of the best, if not the best, F1 cars in my opinion. It was driven by Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard in 1997, and it produced some of the most iconic battles with Michael Schumacher. I still remember. Also, the car livery looks fantastic, and this is really something special in my heart. So hopefully you guys can also recall to this famous and great F1 era. Okay, we are in Montreal, Gilles Villeneuve circuit, McLaren. Just such a great car to drive. Unbelievable downforce. This is what I would say absolutely what F1 car feels like, even for today's standards. You just need to get used to inputs, and this is the car that will not let you down. Unbelievable. 16,000 RPM. I just cannot recommend it enough. Ryzen Studios really spoiled us with this one. It's Formula V10 Generation 2, actually a recreation of FW23 Williams car from 2001. It was powered by BMW V10 engine that had 870 horsepower, which is quite crazy. Unfortunately for the team, it was really unreliable, and the finishing rate for the car was only or less than 50%. So the drivers Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya didn't have the best success. Nevertheless, Ralf got 3 wins and Juan Pablo Montoya 1 win that season, which is not that bad. Okay, what can I say? This is the car that really left me speechless. Absolutely absurd how much downforce and braking power, also acceleration this car has. One of the great selling points of Automobilista 2 in general is of course the variety of cars and the differences between them. I today tested only F1 cars, and I'm really convinced that they put a lot of effort in providing a different experience and a different force feedback and everything else you get when driving different cars. But this one is something really special. From the sounds to everything else, it's just really one car you could enjoy very much, and I cannot recommend it more. I know I've said this a lot of times for the previous cars, but each one surprises me a lot and feels really nice, and this one is no different. So you see how it goes to 18,000 RPM, just absurd, unbelievable. And we are now in 2012. Formula Reza is actually a recreation of Red Bull RB12 from that same year, which had 760 horsepower V8 engine with 605 kilograms in weight. By looking at the rear wing, you can see how aerodynamics changed and how advanced they became, but also you can notice right away how F1 regulations changed the way cars looked and were built in that period. Okay, now we are in RB12 recreation, so Formula Reza. The car has a really crazy amount of downforce, braking power, everything that modern F1 cars have. I'm not a huge fan of it. You need really lightning reflexes to get everything under control. This crazy amount of shifting, upshifting, downshifting and everything else is just way too much for me. I know many of you like it that way, but hopefully some of you relate to what I'm saying and talking about. But in general, this already feels like a proper F1 modern car. Formula Ultimate is the ultimate car that we will look at this video. It's a beast of its own that should satisfy the need of a modern F1 fan. With its 980 horsepower V6 engine and only 734 kilograms, this thing flies on track. And the final review of the day. With the fastest car so far, with the best performance of course and everything else. The modern cars are just not comparable to old era cars we were driving at the beginning. It's completely different story. Some of the romantics will like how the car behaves in the previous 60s or 70s. Some of you don't like it, especially the newer generations might not like it, even though that's a great chance to experience something from the past, which you cannot do on many sims today. This halo might annoy some people. It cannot be moved, as I know, but you can change some other things like head movement that tracks the apex, so this will help a lot when you're turning in. And the car feels fantastic. What can I say? Just need some practice and practice, and that makes you perfect. But in general, this is a really amazing car to drive. Okay, this is where our story ends. Hopefully you enjoyed this F1 story and the extensive overview of all the cars and eras Ryzen Studios currently offers. In my personal opinion, this is so much content that every sim racing fan or F1 fan in particular would really enjoy. If you liked it, please hit that like button. You can also leave a comment and let me know what would you like for me to make a video about in future. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel and show some support. That is really appreciated a lot. And in the end, guys, thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.